Hi, my name is Betty and I'm a recovery coach. I wanted to talk to you today about mental health, but not just any kind of mental health, but mental health as far as autoimmune conditions go. I was diagnosed with lupus a few years ago, and when I was diagnosed with lupus and when I was trying to navigate that process, I was trying to process the diagnosis, it did occur to me, although I didn't fully acknowledge it to what extent, but it did occur to me that mental health is something that I would need to be contending with, even if at the very least in the short term, like, the next 3 months when I go home or whatever. The reason for that is because when I was still in hospital, obviously you just had the news, and I'm recovering from various things that had, the different flare-ups. For me, it was very serious. It was heart failure. It was, most of my organs were malfunctioning, and I'd lost a lot of weight, and couldn't hold food down. All the things, and I'd had a bit of surgery as well to put in a life support machine. So with that process, my body had changed quite a lot, as you can imagine. I had scars on my body now from the surgery. I had scars on my neck from where they put in the lines to put in the drugs into my body. And all these things, my body had changed so much, and I'd lost a lot of strength, I'd lost a lot of muscle mass. So that alone was something to just kind of process and work with. So in my mind, I was still the old person. I was still very capable. I was still, literally where I had left off is where I thought I was. However, my body was telling me something completely different. And that alone is enough to send your mind to a wobble and think, okay, and this kind of really set in maybe a lot of doubt, a lot of like, uncertainty. So I did acknowledge that that's something that I'd be contending with. And even like, when I was lying down on that bed in the hospital, there's a lot of resting, there's a lot of doing nothing. And so my mind would run around a lot, I'd be thinking about all the things that have happened, what the doctors have told me, what's going to happen during the day, when I'm going to have my lunch, who's that person walking by the window, all the random stuff, right? Important and nothing at all in between. And the thing about it is that due to the boredom, and actually some of it was anxiety as well, now that I look back, trigger alert or trigger warning, I used to pick my nose. Okay, sorry, put it out there. I would pick my nose because I was bored. I would pick my nose, but sometimes it would be to the extreme that my nose would start bleeding. And I know that's a bit extreme. So sorry if anyone is triggered by that. But like, I was just lying there with nothing else to do. So that was sort of like a sense of release for me, a bit of escapism, something to do with my hands, and because I couldn't walk, I couldn't leave the bed. So that was one of the things. The main parts of mental health that people with autoimmune conditions might contend with is anxiety and depression. So the depression might come from just maybe like you're not living up to your life, not really reflecting, or the current reality not reflecting what you imagine in your mind, or like what you envision for yourself, or even what your life used to look like. And that can really send you into some kind of depression where you're thinking, is all hope lost? Am I ever going to, is this as good as it's gonna get? The good old days, actually the good old days, and like, the best days are behind me. And that can cause a bit of anxiety and a bit of depression. And the bit is as well that can cause a bit of anxiety is because there's so many procedures or so many moving parts when you have an autoimmune condition, and the flare-ups can look completely different. They can look one way, they can look another way. It can be a headache, it can be joint pains, it can be this, it can be that. So without knowing what's going to hit you, that surely will do a number on you. So that's the first part. There was also cognitive issues. So when I left hospital, I realized that in terms of like even reading or comprehending or even paying attention to really detailed, long conversations, depending on what the other person was talking about, I had to really pay attention. Or even sometimes I'd even zone out without meaning to. And that's something that, I kind of had to work on and kind of get back on track. And retaining information and processing that information was a bit difficult for me. So that's something that can either cause embarrassment depending on the kind of person that you are, or if your friends or your family, if you openly share that, or if you're willing to share that with your friends and family, they can support you with that. But if not, it can cause embarrassment. You can feel a bit, I don't know, like not understanding what's quite going on. Is it this person who's saying something I don't understand, or am I a little bit dumb? Am I a little bit stupid? Why am I not understanding what it is that they're talking about? So it can be all those things. And then it can also lead to, quickly leading on to like frustration and guilt. It can lead to frustration where you don't quite understand why your mind is not comprehending what people are talking about, or what's happening, or what you're reading, or what you're watching on the TV. And it's just like, when you're not in control of your mind, it's just a different level of frustration. You're not in control of your mind or your body. A combination, just full on frustration. And also the guilt can come from like maybe needing more time, or like having to explain to people like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite, can you give me a bit more time, or like, can you repeat that again, or wanting more support or needing more support. That can also maybe cause a little bit of guilt. And there's also, for me, I felt there was like the fear of being misunderstood. Autoimmune conditions, specifically lupus, I can speak for lupus, it's not visible, so you can't see it. And a lot of the flare-ups and a lot of the symptoms that manifest, they're on the inside of the body, so you can't quite see them. Or even like just feeling tired. And everybody has busy lives, everybody's working, everybody has responsibilities going on. At the end of the day, everyone feels tired, but there's a different kind of like fatigue and feeling tired that comes with autoimmune conditions. And so if you're always tired, if you're always telling your friends you're tired, or if you're always having to cancel plans because you're tired, that can really make you feel like, oh, if I explain to people, they won't understand. If I tell them I'm tired, they really won't understand what it is that I'm talking about, because unless you actually experience it, then you really, really wouldn't understand. And so it also depends on you yourself, the person with the condition, actually understanding the symptoms and how these flare-ups come about, to be able even to one, to understand them, number two, to articulate what it is that's actually going on in your own body. So the ability to do that, the willingness to do it, and whether there's a space to do it, those are three things that are really important to eliminate that issue of feeling misunderstood, and actually being able to talk about the things that you're actually contending with, or you're having to deal with on a day-to-day or monthly, or depending on how well you're doing in your health. So I hope that was really, really helpful. I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments, or if you have any feedback, any questions, if you resonate, even if there's some things that you relate to, or you've seen it in your loved ones. I'd love to hear it. We do so much better together. Thank you for listening.